We talk a lot about self love and confidence and healing, becoming that girl, reinventing yourself, all of the things. But nobody really talks about how hard it is to just show up for yourself, like genuinely and consistently. And especially on the days you don't feel inspired or cute or motivated, other than by a cute outfit and some hope. We glamorize transformation, but most of growth isn't this big dramatic moment. It's pretty boring and repetitive. It's choosing yourself in small, almost invisible ways, like brushing your teeth when you're already exhausted and laying down in bed, or drinking water, even when you really, really want soda, taking a walk, even when your brain is being extremely mean to you that day. It's quiet. It's unrewarding most of the time. And it's the exact opposite of everything we've been trained to crave. And it's funny because consistency sounds like so simple, right? But it's one of the hardest things we'll ever do for ourselves. And it's not because we're lazy and it's not because we're undisciplined, but because consistency forces us to look at who we are, who we're becoming, and whether or not our daily actions even align with that version of us we're trying to push ourselves to grow into. So, welcome back to Chasing Stability, where today we're talking about why consistency matters and why it feels impossible some days, and how tiny, unglamorous choices end up becoming the life you actually want, not the life you fantasize about once a year. Because if we're being honest, consistency isn't about routines or a checklist or being perfect. Consistency is how you rebuild trust with yourself. It's how you prove quietly and gently that you are someone worth showing up for. And that's what this episode is really about. Not the hustle version of consistency, not the Pinterest version, but the human version. The I'm trying, but this is actually really hard version. The version where you finally admit that the life you want isn't built by intensity, it's built by repetition. So, why consistency feels so hard? What makes us resist it? And why is learning to show up, even imperfectly, one of the greatest acts of self love you'll ever practice? So, let's start with the real question behind all of this first. Why do we resist something that we know will change our life for the better? But here's the thing, most of us don't struggle with consistency because we're incapable of it. We struggle because consistency forces us to confront our actual selves. When you start showing up for yourself regularly, even in small, boring ways, you start noticing things like, who am I trying to become? Why am I wanting to work toward this goal? Does my daily life actually match that? Consistency exposes the gaps between who you are and who you want to be. And those gaps, they can be pretty uncomfortable. So we avoid it at like all cost. We procrastinate. We convince ourselves that future me will magically wake up disciplined and energized and ready to fix everything by Monday or next month or next year. But consistency isn't glamorous. It doesn't give you quick dopamine hits. It's not a dramatic TikTok before and after reel. It's making your bed when you'd rather skip it. It's taking your vitamins at the same time every day and not letting yourself just forget. It's doing the things that don't actually change your life instantly, but change everything quietly over time. As most of us know, we live in a world that romanticizes intensity over steadiness. We love a big leap, a major shift, a spontaneous decision that changes everything. But consistency is slow, it's subtle, and we mistake subtle for insignificant. Every version of you that you admire, the confident you, the grounded you, the peaceful you, was created through consistency, not chaos. Even if you didn't notice you were doing it at the time. Think about how many times you've said, I just want to feel like myself again. Most of the time, what you're really craving there is consistency, a routine that makes your life feel familiar instead of unpredictable. It's not that consistency is boring, it's that it's stable. And stability can feel unfamiliar and extremely scary. If you've spent years living in survival mode or emotional chaos or relationships that made you reactive instead of rooted. So, before we get into the how, we need to understand the why. Why showing up for yourself matters, why the routines you create become the foundation you stand on, and why consistency is actually the most underrated form of self care. Because consistency will heal you in ways motivation never will. Now that we've slowed down long enough to admit why this whole just be consistent thing isn't easy, it's time to ask the real question here, okay? Who is the person you're trying to grow into? And does your life reflect that yet? Answering this question honestly requires two things most people don't like: self awareness and a lot of accountability. But at some point, you have to sit with yourself and ask, who am I becoming through the choices I make every day? Not the choices you plan to make, not the version of yourself you imagined in every first of the new year, not the person you pretend to be when you're having this great week, but the you that exists on the average Tuesday. Because that version, that's the real you. And that's the one who shapes your future far more than any big decision ever will. Consistency forces you to face the micro choices that build your identity. Do my habits support the life that I want or sabotage it? Do my routines nurture me or drain me? Do I talk about growth more than I actually practice it? We all have versions of ourselves we're chasing. The healthier us, the calmer us, the more fulfilled us, the one who doesn't spiral every time life feels slightly inconvenient. But the gap between me now and me I'm becoming, that's where consistency lives. It's not punishment, it's like that bridge. And here's something I feel like people don't talk about enough: consistency is how you learn who you are without the noise of other people's expectations. When you start showing up the same way for yourself every day, even in the tiniest, teensy ways, you start seeing patterns. You learn what energizes you. You learn what drains you. You learn what habits make you proud. You learn what boundaries you actually need. You learn what you've been tolerating that you shouldn't be. And suddenly, the version of you you're trying to build doesn't feel so far away, right? Because it's not created in that big dramatic moment like the movies. It's created in the repetition, the routine, the tiny choices you make when no one is watching. It's created by how you treat yourself in the quiet. And that's why consistency matters so much. You can't become someone new with the habits that belong to the older you or the other you. But before your brain jumps to, okay, I need a 15-step morning routine and a color coded calendar, let's sit back and talk about something else that's super important. Why do we think consistency is so boring? And why does that belief keep us extremely stuck? Because somewhere along the way, somebody sold everyone in the world this lie that consistency is boring. Like, if your life doesn't feel chaotic, unpredictable, and slightly unhinged and exciting at all times, you must be doing something wrong, which is hilarious because the same people who think consistency is boring are also the ones constantly saying, I just want peace. I just want stability. I just want to feel like I have my life together. And I can say that and be so sure that it's true because I used to live that life. But let's just get one thing clear: peace comes from consistency, stability is the result of consistency. Feeling like you have your life together is just consistency wearing like this cute little outfit that you put on. Most people don't actually believe that consistency is boring, though. We think inconsistency is familiar. Our nervous systems are so used to the highs and the lows, that crashing diet, the burnout cycles, the dating chaos, the waking up one morning ready to change your life and waking up the next morning ready to burn it all down. Chaos feels exciting because it gives you something to like react to. Consistency feels empty because it gives you space to truly meet yourself. And a lot of people don't know what to do with that space or in it. Because when life gets steady, you lose the excuses. You can't blame circumstances anymore. You can't point to someone else's behavior. You can't say life got in the way. All that's left is you, your choices, your habits, your self talk, your discipline. Consistency forces you to face the version of you you've been avoiding. And sometimes that's scarier than the inconsistency itself. It's easier to play victim than it is to step up and meet yourself. It's also why so many of us sabotage routines the moment they start working. You start journaling, you skip a day, I failed. You eat one bad meal, suddenly the whole week is ruined. You miss a workout, guess I'll start fresh next Monday. We dramatize the small slip because chaos gives us permission to quit. But here's a thought that flips everything. Consistency isn't sameness. Consistency is self-respect. It's not doing everything perfectly. It's doing it enough to build trust with yourself again. It's the difference between I have to and I get to. Consistency becomes healing when it stops becoming a performance and starts being a promise. A promise that you won't abandon yourself the moment things get inconvenient. And that takes us right into the next part. One of the funniest parts about starting a consistent routine is realizing you don't actually know yourself as well as you thought you did. When life finally slows down, when the chaos quiets, you start noticing your true preferences again, right? Not the ones that you like performed and not the ones that you absorbed through other people and not the ones you adopted because everyone around you did them too. You start asking questions like, do I actually enjoy mornings or did I just think I was supposed to? Do I genuinely love this hobby or did I pick it up to feel productive? Does this routine fit me or am I trying to fit into it? Because consistency forces you to pause long enough to see yourself clearly. It brings you back to your own orbit, your own rhythm, instead of operating on autopilot for the sake of convenience and survival. And honestly, that's one of the most underrated gifts of routine. It's self recognition. You start to see the difference between the person you became out of habit and the person you're intentionally choosing to grow into. You start reconnecting with tiny parts of yourself you forgot about, your natural pace, your creativity, your curiosity, your energy, your intuition. You realize things like you're calmer than you thought. You're stronger than you realize. You like things you abandoned years ago. You've outgrown habits that once made sense. You're becoming someone your past self would feel proud of, or maybe someone they would have hated or been jealous of. That happens too. Consistency isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. It's about asking, who am I actually becoming? And does my life reflect who I want that person to be? And once you know who you're building toward, maintaining consistency becomes less about discipline and more about embodying a version of you that feels true. So, how do we maintain consistency without burning out or giving up or starting over for the 47th time, right? Consistency sounds so simple when you say it just out loud until you actually try to do it. Then suddenly the smallest routine feels like climbing a hill in wet socks. It's disgusting and it's unbearable. But here's the facts. Most people don't struggle with consistency because they're lazy. They struggle because they're exhausted emotionally and mentally and physically exhausted. Burnout isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it shows up as just not having the energy to care or feeling overwhelmed by something tiny, avoiding things that used to bring joy, telling yourself, I'll start over tomorrow for 14 tomorrows. That's why consistency doesn't start with discipline, it starts with honesty. You can't build a steady routine on a foundation that's running on fumes. So here's what consistency actually looks like when you're human, right? And not a robot. And these are some actual things that have definitely helped me stay in it as well. The first one and the most important one, in my opinion, is set small goals. Okay. That makes big goals possible. People mess up their routines because they try to transform their whole life in a week. It's not possible. And it's setting you up for this horrible failure every time. But small goals, they're believable, they're doable, they build trust. It's easier to walk into a gym 3 times a week than promise yourself a full lifestyle overhaul at 6 a.m. every single day out of nowhere. Small wins create momentum, and momentum creates identity. The second one is celebrate every single win, even when they're tiny. A lot of adults forget the power of, like, I'm proud of you when no one's saying it to them, it's just themselves. But celebrating yourself rewires your brain. It teaches you that showing up is valuable, even when the steps are small. Consistency thrives in encouragement, not punishment. Number three, build a nighttime routine you actually enjoy, because your night sets your next morning momentum. Everyone talks about morning routines like they're this new personality trait, but the nighttime routine is the quiet engine of everything. If you go to bed in chaos, you are already waking up behind. Choosing small things like a 10-minute reset, putting your phone across the room, laying out clothes, prepping something for the next day. These all make consistency feel possible before the day has even started, right? That makes sense. Number four, stop thinking a setback means you ruined everything. You're not meant to show up the same way every single day. Some days you have energy, some days you don't. Some days the best you can do is simply exist, and that still counts. Consistency isn't broken by one missed action or a day. It's broken by shame. The moment you say, ugh, I failed, might as well start over next week. That's where the real damage happens. One mess up or like one missed day doesn't mean the day needs to be a fail. And the same goes for a bad day, meaning that the whole week is a waste. The 20-80 rule is how most people stay consistent long term. 80% showing up, 20% being human, 80% healthy eating, 20% the treats you enjoy. The 20% allows for the setbacks or whatever you want to call them. It makes them not be so intimidating. Number five, stop demotivating yourself by making the routine the enemy. You don't need a strict deadline to change your life. You need an invitation. Try things like, let's see how it goes for the next 2 weeks. I'll experiment with this routine and then adjust as I learn. It doesn't have to be this like perfect to be progress. End dates feel less overwhelming than forever commitments, right? And experimentation feels less like punishment than strict rules. Give yourself permission to try, not perform. And last but not least, number six, which is less of a tip and more like the reason why consistency matters. It rebuilds trust with yourself. When you show up for yourself regularly in small, steady ways, something shifts internally. Your brain stops seeing you as a person who never follows through. Your self esteem rises, your anxiety around the actions start disappearing. You become someone you rely on. Consistency is how you love yourself back into stability. It's how you prove to your own mind, I didn't abandon you. I'm still right here. And honestly, that kind of trust heals places that motivation like could never even like touch. So that's why you should never give up on yourself. You are the longest commitment you will ever have. Your body, your mind, your spirit, you're with them for life. So giving up on yourself isn't just quitting a routine. It's walking away from the one person who's been trying their hardest to carry you through every single season. And that's why you can't stop. Not because you owe like the world anything. Who cares what anyone else thinks? But because you deserve to see who you become when you keep choosing you. We spend so much time abandoning ourselves without even realizing it, ignoring our needs, breaking promises to ourselves, numbing instead of healing, showing up for others, but never for ourselves. And little by little, it chips away at your relationship with you. But here's the part no one tells you: you can rebuild that relationship at any time. You can become who you want to become. Anyone and everyone can shift into habits that they admire about someone else in their life. You can pick yourself back up at 2 p.m. on a random Tuesday and try again. You can restart after a breakdown, after a month of forgetting, and after a year of being lost. There is no expiration date on coming home to bettering yourself in any way. You never really start from scratch. You start from experience. Every failed attempt taught you something. Every restart strengthened something. Every moment you thought you were behind actually built resilience you're going to need later. Giving up assumes that the version of you right now is the best version you'll ever be, but consistency proves otherwise. It shows you how quickly life shifts when you choose yourself a little bit more each day. Self betrayal is loud, but self loyalty is louder. There comes a moment, maybe you've already felt it at some point in your life, or maybe you felt it a lot. It's where you realize you're tired of disappointing yourself more than you're scared of trying again. It's the quiet internal whisper, like, I deserve better for me. And that whisper, that's where healing like really begins. Because choosing yourself isn't about being perfect in every single way and situation. It's about refusing to walk away from the person who needs you most. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to start again. You're allowed to become new at any age. Let the world say what it wants. Let the timelines and the expectations and the pressures all just like fall away. You're building something real, something sustainable, something loving. And the most beautiful part is consistency doesn't just change your habits, it changes your identity. It's not just I'm working out, it becomes I'm someone who shows up for my body. It's not just I'm trying to get organized, it becomes I'm someone who honors the space that I live in. It's not just I'm trying to be healthier mentally, it becomes I'm someone who takes care of myself in every way. Your habits shape your sense of self. Your consistency shapes your confidence, and your willingness to keep going, even imperfectly, shapes your entire life. What you expect, what you put up with, so on and so forth. Consistent routines inspire self trust. Self trust isn't built from big dramatic moments like we've already said 1,000 times. It's built from tiny, boring ones. We talk a lot about trusting other people, but the truth is, most of us don't even trust ourselves. Not yet, at least. And that's not because we're flawed, but because we've spent years making promises to ourselves that we don't ever keep. You know the ones that I'm talking about, right? Everyone does. It's like the universal feeling of when you hear these, you know, I'll start on Monday. I'll be more disciplined next year. I'll take better care of myself when things calm down. I'll stop talking to him or her for real this time. I had to put that one in there. But every time we don't follow through, even for understandable reasons, something inside of us goes, see, we don't follow through. We don't show up. We don't choose us. That's where self trust breaks down, not from big failures, but from tiny moments of self abandonment. But consistency, that's how we repair it. When you show up for yourself in the same small, repeatable ways, you're teaching your nervous system, I can count on me. I keep my promises now. I follow through, even if it's not perfect. It doesn't have to be gym every day energy. It can be drinking water first thing instead of diving into chaos on your phone, stretching for 3 minutes, walking outside for 10, journaling 1 page, not 10, going to bed when you said you would, choosing the habit even when the motivation is gone. None of this is glamorous. None of it is Instagram worthy or talking on the phone about it worthy, even, but all of it builds trust because self trust isn't, I believe I'll never fail. It's, I believe I'll come back to myself no matter what. Consistency also rewires the story you tell about who you are. Before consistency, I'm lazy. I can't stick with anything. I always fall off. I'm not disciplined. After consistency, even tiny consistency, I'm someone who takes care of me. I'm someone who keeps showing up. I'm someone I can rely on. I don't give up anymore. You don't have to be perfect to trust yourself. You just have to be predictable to you. The moment you become someone you can depend on, your entire confidence shifts because confidence isn't actually about just feeling good. It's about knowing you can handle it when things don't feel so great. And consistency is how you build that. The truth is, consistency isn't ever going to be this big thing that like everyone's so proud of you for. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it doesn't get applauses. It's just doing the bare minimum things. It's putting your shoes on and taking a walk even when you're overthinking every single thing in your life and all the things that need to be done. It's choosing the version of you you're trying to become, even on the days you don't feel like you're anywhere close to being that person. And over time, you start to notice something shift, not because your life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you become someone you can rely on. That's what consistency does. It rewires your relationship with yourself. It turns, I hope I can do this, into, I know I can handle this. It turns tiny habits into big, big healing. It turns chaos into something that you can actually navigate. And if you're in a season where showing up feels hard, if you're tired, if you're burnt out, if you feel like you keep falling off track, I hope you hear me when I say this. You do not have to be perfect to be consistent. You just have to keep coming back again and again and again. Messy, human, trying. You will not show up the same every single day. You don't need to. That's not the point. The point is that you don't give up on yourself anymore because consistency isn't about discipline. It's about self respect. It's about saying, I deserve to become someone I'm proud to wake up as. And you do. You absolutely do. So if you need a sign to keep going, this is it. If you need permission to start over, here it is. If you're waiting for the perfect moment to start, that doesn't exist. Just start now. Your future self is already rooting for you. You just have to meet them halfway. If this episode made you feel something or reminded you to be a little softer with yourself, send it to someone you love or post it to your story with one of the lines that hit you the hardest. Let's normalize the slow, unglamorous work of becoming better humans, one tiny, consistent choice at a time. And if you want more episodes that feel like late night talks on the couch, hit that follow button for me, please, so you don't miss anything of what's coming out next. This is Chasing Stability, and I will meet you in the in between next Tuesday.